Hi, Fred Dawson here. We're at CES and we're with Cisco in their suite. And I'm with Ken Morse, who is the CTO of Connected Devices for Cisco Systems. Thanks, Ken, for taking some time to speak with us.
Good to be here.
We have an opportunity to look at what Cisco has been doing over the past year with RDK, which is the reference design kit that was first innovated by Comcast, has now been embraced by Time Warner. They've formed a joint venture to set this up as an industry-wide initiative that goes beyond any one operator to be something that basically is an architectural design for all operators to look at with respect to their next generation services and how to create a set-top environment and eventually a gateway environment that creates some uniformity around some of the key functionalities at the core and also some of the extensions into the cloud and into various levels of middleware that allows for some degree of conformity and expedites things with respect to development of new functionalities and features in the set-top box. So with that introduction, I'd like you, Ken, to tell us a little bit about the basic architectural aspects of what you're doing with RDK.
Sure. So RDK, as you mentioned, is basically a community source-based environment that allows us, in conjunction with our customers, to more rapidly innovate and bring product to market in a faster time. When you look at what RDK actually is, it's built obviously on top of varying hardware environments, whether that's IP set-tops, as you mentioned, gateways, traditional video QAM set-tops as well, and then uses standard open source components, whether that's things like GStreamer that we see here to enable the playback of video and audio, whether it's things like Qt WebKit for enabling rich HTML user experiences to live on this, as well as the media framework for being able to move content around both within the device and within the home with other devices that are there. What we're doing with it is taking what Comcast brings to the table and then enhancing it in areas of things in bringing different user experiences to the top of it, as we have here with OpenUX, which is an HTML framework to enable rapid, high quality, very immersive video experiences. Whether it's Video Guard to bring more advanced DRM solutions to the marketplace so that we can take IP content and be able to stream that within the home whilst protecting it and extending the windows that may go with content as well. And also, as you mentioned, as we move into more things like the gateway side of things, is bringing things like e-router capabilities into RDK as well, so that the gateway functionality is also something that can be embraced by the RDK community. When you look at enhancement and optimization to get a product out the door, people expect it to be best quality, best performing. So we bring our teams of engineers to the table to really enhance and tighten up the RDK implementation so it's the most reliable, most robust and highest performing solution there is out there. So a range of things that we do, but all built around the common foundation of RDK that now RDK LLC is taking, not just with Comcast, but as you mentioned, with other customers both in North America and now more worldwide as well. And so that's another area where we're looking at the particular extensions and working with RDK LLC to help develop those to get them into things like DVB markets and the like.
Let's talk a little bit about how it has gone in terms of from when you first talked about RDK a year ago at this show and what's happened over the course of the past year. The initial idea was to create a uniform hardware basis for the tuning functionalities and for the conditional access functionality. So every time a new generation of chips came out, you didn't have to start all over again with the set tops and everything that rode on top of that. So that was the beginning point. Over the course of this past year, it's really evolved. Now we're talking about RDK version 2.0. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about how that has evolved in terms of what it means to the service provider community and the cable operators in particular.
Certainly, and it's really about choice. So in the early days of RDK, Take, for example, silicon vendors. Not all silicon vendors were embracing RDK. They were kind of waiting to see how it would evolve and how it would get adopted. So there was just a couple of silicon vendors who were the primary ones. Now, and I can demonstrate to you in a little while, we can see a whole range of silicon vendors, literally 5 or 6 different major silicon vendors who are supporting RDK, which enables choice in hardware designs, choice in capabilities, and obviously drives a very competitive environment in terms of the boxes for the service providers that are out there. In addition, we're seeing, as you mentioned, functionality in RDK is actually, compared to other middlewares, is actually getting a little smaller than some of the fatter middlewares that we've seen in the past. And this is because we have other transitions going on in the marketplace, for example, cloud DVR. So there isn't a need in many solutions to actually have DVR functionality as part of RDK. Instead, it's being moved to the cloud, which again simplifies some of the operation of RDK. However, there will be customers around the world who will still be using DVR type functionality, so some of those components will still need to get developed and enhanced for particular markets. But again, this shows you where RDK is very, very modular and enables us and our ecosystem partners to be able to bring different components to the table to build what you need for a given customer configuration.
So the key thing has been to devise an architectural stack that allows for use of open source APIs to bring in all these enhancements and allow any given service provider working with any given OEM to devise a set-top environment that works for their business and service strategy.
Exactly, and obviously there's a lot of focus on trying to standardize that as much as possible, because we don't want to collectively create a world of diverse implementations of RDK. So that's a nice thing where so many of these components are common, and a lot of the differentiation actually happens at the higher levels in the user experience and what a particular service provider chooses to present to their consumer, and whether they do things like DVR in the device or DVR in the cloud.
Well, let's look at some of the device iterations that have transpired over this past year.
Okay.
So it's been a year, you've been developing, you've been working with your customers, and you're about to ship something.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're showing here as far as the types of devices that are in the pipeline.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, one thing we've seen over the last year is really an explosion in terms of the different types of devices that can support RDK, the configurations on those, and also an explosion in the range of silicon vendors who also support RDK. What we're showing here, this is the Xfinity Comcast XG2 V2. Going into the labs right now, shipping this year. And this is their video gateway device, built on RDK, currently RDK 1.3, but it's RDK 2.0 ready. So this is a device that over the course of the next few months will have RDK 2.0 on it, and that's how it will go to market. It's also running the OCAP-less version of RDK, in the form of RDK 1.3 today.
Meaning it's very small, very compact, and a lot of stuff's happening in the cloud.
Absolutely. So yep, cloud DVR driving through this. In this example here, you're seeing us driving IP set-tops for other rooms in the house that are sitting here. And also this device can aggregate other content within the home and make it available for those other IP devices.
Wow. So that's really that's really your next generation set-top array compared to what we're looking at today as what will be in homes tomorrow.
Absolutely, and what I'll show you in a second is how the pace of innovation is even growing on that, and what an in-home will look like as we move forward. This is an evolution of what I would call traditional QAM video gateway. So rather than being predominantly IP, a move to leverage existing QAM, be able to terminate that in the gateway device, and then again deliver it over IP to those other IP set-tops within the home. With or without transcoding capabilities. Again, something that RDK and the enhancements that we've been doing enable you to support very rapidly, very quickly. These two here examples, the bottom one is what our initial prototype, and now what we're going to market with is the latest embellishment of our video optimized wireless product line. So an IP set-top that can work both with Mocha, but more importantly with Wi-Fi. This is running a 3x3 802.11ac configuration, so gives us very, very high throughput, very good reach.
Now that's building on what you've been doing with some service providers, AT&T,
absolutely,
with respect to being able to deliver HD TV over Wi-Fi in the home to where there's no installation required. You just move that TV around wherever you want.
Absolutely. This is something where you could just, basically ship this to a customer and have them self-configure it and getting it to the home. With AT&T and other customers, we've now shipped over 4 million video-optimized Wi-Fi IP set-tops.
So it must be working.
It's absolutely
there
working.
was some skepticism about that.
There was in the early days, and what we're seeing is, the Wi-Fi technology is ever evolving. So when we originally launched that product, it was 802.11n. We're now 802.11 AC 3x3 with greater throughput, more devices supported, and greater reach within the home as well. RDK will evolve as well and will support different classes of devices that we're starting to see come to market. For example, right now, this is the XB3 data gateway from Comcast. Today, not running an RDK variant in any way, shape or form, but we can expect as we go forward the success that Comcast and others have had in addressing the set-top market can be something that could be addressed in the gateway space as well with common features
Here we're
like
talking
the
about the data gateway and moving that into the video space with the IP video.
Exactly.
And also this gateway happens to work indoor and outdoor. So Comcast is using this to create that new version of Wi-Fi roaming outside the home. So it's a very powerful concept if you throw RDK in on top of that.
Absolutely. Allows rapid innovation and builds on what they've been doing. This is just a prototype that we have right now, but it's showing you the latest in terms of the integration of functionality. This is what we call a unified gateway. This is one that can terminate both existing QAM services as well as IP services. Also has telephony, full data capability in it as well, and allows certain operators who want to take that transition from QAM to IP to be able to do it in a migratory steps using one device. It's also using the most integrated silicon available today. It's an area where for us we waited on unified gateways until we could get that integrated silicon to have exactly the right product at the right cost point for what the customers need.
How far off in the future is this?
This I would expect we're going to see certain customers deploying this kind of product during the course of 2014.
So this will basically allow everybody to set up a home environment that will give them the wherewithal to just move off of QAM altogether, and this would play very well with CCAP.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, this is a 32 by 8, for example, so we can dynamically configure what we use.
32 bonded channels.
Yep. And we can dynamically configure between the QAM tuners and the DOCSIS tuners, which allows us to have that transitional migration for customers who want to go from QAM to all IP.
And I imagine there might be some AC in that too?
There may well be, yes. It's popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit more about futures and how we see things. So one of the other things that's changing technology-wise is on the codec front. So we've been used to MPEG-2, H.264, and now this year we have the introduction of HEVC, something that halves the bandwidth.
Which I understand from a hardware standpoint is several months off.
Well, that's what some people would say. There's been samples that have been coming, and what people have been waiting for is actually 4K P60 silicon.
Right.
What I'm showing here is basically one of the first 4K P60 systems running in a set-top here. We're running full 4K. The content was actually encoded using the Cisco encoding capabilities that we've built in-house to give us the best quality that we can get, as you can see.
Would this be characterized as live encoding?
We're running it right now. I think this was done with offline encoding, but we also have a solution that we're working on that is driving us to live 4K encoding as well.
But the silicon is there to support that.
Yes, for decode, the silicon is there, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, so you're seeing live decode, absolutely, of what you hear. And also driving one of the few HDMI 2.0 available TV sets on the market, which is needed for 4K P60. And of course, back to our RDK discussion, it's ever evolving, so HEVC is another component that has to be supported by RDK as we move forward. The other thing that's happening with all this innovation is RDK allows us to do things, where we start to bring down the form factors of devices, whether they get smaller, like hockey pucks kind of thing that people are used to.
So what's that?
So this is basically HD set-top, yeah? It's an IP set-top that allows us to be able to, as we were talking about earlier, how does the home evolve? Those boxes there start to get smaller, and already we're seeing, the next generation of those get smaller again. And people also bring up...
This is getting into that territory where you have to worry about infants swallowing things.
Well, it can get that way. They start to look. That's why we try to be careful on how they look. Yeah, and of course, HDMI sticks is something that is going to become much more meaningful in the future, as long as we can actually hit service provider grade Wi-Fi delivered to these.
Right.
Because what you cannot have is best effort service. It has to be guaranteed service, and that's one thing that we're working with our partners on, is to deliver service provider grade HDMI stick capability as we move forward. Again, RDK is going to be found across all these different ranges of devices.
Well, one of the more intriguing things that I guess illustrates how RDK ends up in places where you wouldn't expect. And tell us about this with respect to the operator that wanted to have an IPv6, that's the next version of IP addressability, as the basis for an IPTV set-top.
Absolutely. So we have a European customer who came to us literally about 60 days ago. And at the time they said, we want to put into the field an IPTV system, all IPv6, all the back-end systems IPv6, distribution IPv6, to the client device in the home IPv6, and be the first in the world to do it. And so we looked at the product portfolio that we have, and a lot of our products are already IPv6 capable. On the set-top side, we were like, okay, we need to get an HTML user experience out there. How do we get an IPv6 enabled set-top out there rapidly? And the answer was to leverage RDK. RDK does not by default today support IPv6. It's one of the options that's being looked at. So we actually integrated an IPv6 stack into it, got all of that up and running, integrated with the rest of the system, and in 50 days from the customer asking, we were able to demonstrate, get from their labs into early deployments, an end-to-end IPv6 IPTV system.
Which I guess the moral of that story is marketing RDK isn't what this is going to be about. This is going to be about RDK is just fundamental, and then it's making set-tops according to what people want.
Absolutely. And, as you've seen across these demonstrations, it's about RDK evolving, yeah? It's about addressing other markets, not just North America, other form factors and other devices as we move forward.
Really fascinating. I much appreciate your time, Ken. Thanks a lot for sharing this with us.
It was a pleasure, Fred.
Okay.